So this is really where we left off yesterday, right? The Soviets, the Germans, they signed this non-aggression pact. They are agreeing not to fight each other, right? And then part of this agreement is a secret deal that is not advertised to the rest of the world, right? And that is to split Poland, right? So they agreed to not fight each other, right? They're secretly going to invade and split Poland, and that is what they do. So Hitler on September 1st, 1939 is going to launch that invasion of Poland. As a result, that is when we see Britain and France declare war on Germany, okay? However, with the support of the Soviet Union, right, them and the Germans, they are going to quickly conquer Poland. So there's not really any hope in terms of the allies there with Britain and France in saving Poland, okay? But they are going to declare war on Germany. Hitler has a new military strategy that's actually really good, and that is this blitzkrieg, or this lightning war. They're going to take their planes, their tanks, their infantry, and they are just going to, just like lightning, how lightning just kind of comes out of nowhere and strikes very, very quickly. That is what they're going to do. All of a sudden, everything's normal. Imagine we're sitting here in school right now, then all of a sudden there are airplanes dropping bombs on us, tanks rolling up through the trees, shooting holes in buildings, and all of a sudden here come a bunch of soldiers with guns. Right? It's just mass chaos. That is generally the strategy that Hitler's going to impose throughout World War II, is this blitzkrieg, or this lightning war. Very, very fast, very, very chaotic, and is very effective at quickly conquering the enemy. Yeah.
Did you do this by himself?
Did he do it by himself?
Yeah, or with that other guy.
So on Stalin in the Soviet Union? This attack here is by himself.
Oh.
Right. Meanwhile, while this is ongoing, the Soviet Union, they are going to capture a lot of that old Russian territory that they lost from the peace treaty, right, with Germany in World War I. Right, all of that territory that got split up into new nations after World War I, like Lithuania, Poland, Finland. They are going to go through and conquer that territory and take that back as part of old Russia, or the new Soviet Union. The French, the British, they are getting their troops ready right there at the French border, waiting for the Germans to attack. However, many months go by and Germany never attacked. Okay? This is known as the phony war. France and Britain were sitting here waiting, expecting Germany to continue their invasion and attack. But what Hitler was actually doing was mobilizing and making his army bigger and even more prepared to launch this massive invasion later. So Britain and France could have kind of pushed the war to Germany and maybe stopped some of the chaos, but instead they let Hitler really get everything together and formulate a good plan and get the military organized and a real good strategy set up instead. That is the phony war. 1940, instead of attacking Britain and France, Hitler's actually going to go north and attack and conquer Denmark and Norway. He's going to continue conquering the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. And at this point, he's finally going to reach the French. All right. I'll show the video later, but it shows how the Germans were able to surround the British and the French army. That's this battle here of Dunkirk. But the Germans are going to end up trapping the British and the French soldiers on the coast. They're just going to surround them, basically on a beach, surround them, and the British Navy and civilian, like passenger ships, are going to have to come up from Britain, right? And the soldiers are just going to flee into the ocean, right? Boarding these boats and leaving before the Germans are able to move in and kill them all. Right? So there's a rescue mission set up that's going to end up saving the British soldiers and what's left of those armies. France is going to end up being forced to surrender to Germany. And now at this point, we've got the battle for Britain, or the Battle of Britain here. Winston Churchill is going to become the British Prime Minister now. Right? The other guy, Chamberlain, he's the one who signed the peace treaty with Hitler, right? Giving Hitler Czechoslovakia, right? We talked about that yesterday. He's going to step down. We're going to get a new British Prime Minister now in place. That is Winston Churchill. The big thing for Winston Churchill is that he is going to vow never to surrender to the Germans. He's going to fight until he can't fight anymore. The Germans are going to want to conquer Britain. That is the next phase of Hitler's plan. They're going to airstrike the major British cities. But the British do have a pretty good air force, right? A really good air force. And they have radar, right? Y'all have seen radar on videos, right? A little line going around, flashes where the enemies are. Y'all play COD too, you got radar on COD.
Heartbeat sensor.
Right, the heartbeat sensor, same thing, right? You've got, they've got that technology, okay? So they can kind of see where these German planes are coming, right? Which allows them to better defend themselves. The British, they're actually going to successfully defend themselves from the German attack, right? So that blitzkrieg attack with the planes and the lightning war, they're going to successfully defend themselves, and that is going to be a real surprise to Hitler, and he's ended up going to call off that attack or that battle there of Britain.
At what point does Hitler start like taking hostage like all the Jews and all that?
So that's this time. That it's really not as known to what extent is going on over there in Poland, but that is ongoing. At this point, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As soon as they started taking control of Poland and that area, that's a big Jewish population there. Like it was ongoing at that point.
Okay.
Right. So now Hitler has conquered France. They're a little bit of a standstill with Britain. Okay. Britain's not real formidable enough to launch an attack by themselves to battle the Axis powers with Germany and Italy and that support. So Hitler's plan from here is to invade the Soviet Union. Right? He also wants to take control of the Balkans. Right? So those countries in the Balkans, Austria, which they've already taken, Hungary, that region down there. We talked about that a lot during World War I. He wants to take control of that area. He's going to invade Yugoslavia. He's going to invade Greece, right, and conquer both of those very quickly. And then June 1941, this is when Germany's going to launch its attack there on the Soviet Union. Soviet Union, thinking they have a non-aggression pact in place, it's not something they have to worry about. They're going to be very surprised when Germany rolls in, attacking them. Y'all remember when we talked about the scorched earth policy, right, that the Russians used, where they were retreating and burning all the resources in between them and the Germans as they were attacking? Russia or the Soviet Union is going to use that exact same strategy again in World War II, right? They are going to burn the land as they retreat, destroying the resources as the Germans move deeper and deeper into Russia, trying to defeat the Soviet Union. The Germans are going to get to the capital there in Moscow, weakened by, again, that scorched earth policy. By the time they get there, they're almost going to conquer it, but be forced to pull back and retreat. So it's going to be an unsuccessful attack of Moscow, of Russia, the Soviet Union. So now Hitler's kind of 0 for 2 on some of his two major battles. He tried to conquer Britain, failed, called that attack off. Tries to conquer the Soviet Union, fails, has to call that one off. Okay, so he's being met with a little bit of resistance now, finally.